Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. It's been an interesting few days, and I know I haven't joined y'all in a while. Summertime gets a little bit tricky, but I promise you, content will continue to come. There's been reports out that the Nets don't want to give Kyrie Irvin a max extension, and I think that there's been some people falling on different sides of it. But I'll just say this: like in life, you get what you get, right? And especially when you have put out certain energy, then you shouldn't be surprised when that's the energy that you get in return. So for instance, if I put out an energy of I don't care, then when people automatically just assume that I don't care, I can't be mad, right? I can't be upset that they don't believe I care when that's the type of energy that I've put out there. We have to be accountable for ourselves, right? Like at the end of the day, we have to be accountable for what we do. And sometimes it's nobody else's fault but our own. When we are put into situations where we can affect our own livelihood, then we have to take responsibility for that. So in Kyrie Irvin's case, he has nobody to blame for this but himself. Zero. Nobody else. No one's made him take off days because he didn't feel great. Nobody made him decide that he didn't want to do something that everybody else on his team was doing. I'm not mad at him, but you have to be willing to stand in your truth. And I think that the problem that we have in sports and in society a lot of times is that we have a bunch of people who are not willing to live in their truth. They want to speak their truth. They want their truth to be recognized. They want their truth to be appreciated, but they don't want to live in their truth. They don't want to do the things that they need to do in order for their truth to really and truly be fully substantiated. A lot of times we don't understand. We want the freedom of speech, but we want to be free from the consequences that come with our freedom of speech. But that's not how freedom of speech works. We want to have choices, but we want to be free from the backlash and or the ripple effect of those choices. That's not how life works. At the end of the day, what we do, we are accountable for. What we do, we're accountable for. You tell somebody that you don't like them, then they forever believe that you don't like them. There's nothing else. It's just that simple, right? So with Kyrie Irving, if people are going, hey, listen, supremely talented, one of the most talented people to ever pick up a basketball. But do I want to invest the next 5 years and $250 million to him? That becomes the question. Am I better off having a Kyrie Irvin who at any particular time might just retire, right? At any particular time, he might just go, I don't do this no more. And now I'm left with, a hole. Am I better off having that and banking on or trying to roll the dice on him being the supreme talent that he is? Or do I take his $50 million and go find 2 to 3 other really good to quality basketball players to fill his spot. Because I could have one $50 million guy, or I could have two $20 million guys and a $10 million guy. That's three really good basketball players. I could have four $10 million a year guys and maybe two $5 million a year dudes. That's a lot of good basketball players. The issue with the Nets last year is that they really didn't have anybody coming off the bench that was a legitimate stone cold ball player. Like you and me ball players, yes, they're great. But I mean like NBA level. They didn't have those. Like where were the guys for the Nets that were coming off the bench and making a real legitimate difference? I contend that Jalen Brunson might be one of the most valuable assets in all of basketball right now. Because they're playing Jalen Brunson essentially as like a de facto two guard in Dallas because Luka handles the ball so much. But Jalen Brunson is a really, really good point guard. And when Luka was out in the playoffs, Jalen Brunson showed you just how good he is at playing basketball. Do I take a Kyrie Irvin at $50 million? Or do I take a Jalen Brunson, give him $10, $15, $20 million a year and add other good pieces around them to make a better squad? That's what these teams are mulling over right now because they realize that you just can't get it done the way that you've gotten it done. Hey, we can't just get a big three. We can't just do big three stuff. That doesn't work anymore because these teams are building collectives. These teams are building a group of players. Like, in a way, the Warriors got lucky, and I want to say congratulations to the Warriors again, right? There'll be no Steph Curry slander around here anymore. And I ain't gonna lie to you, like I was always on one of the guys that were like, hey, you know, XYZ is better than Steph Curry. XYZ is better than Steph Curry. Nope, not anymore. Nope. Steph Curry, if he's always been the greatest shooter ever. So we could put that away for years ago. But now he has to be put into those categories of the all-time greats. He has to, right? That's the guy you pay $50 million to. He's showing up. But even then, right, Golden State got lucky. They got unlucky, right? But then they got lucky. So here's how they got unlucky. They had a chance for a three-peat. KD blows his arm Achilles. Clay goes down with a knee, with a messed up knee. And then neither one of them are around for the next year. Neither one of them around. That allows the Warriors to essentially tank without tanking because everybody understands, hey, you just lost, right? That allowed them to essentially tank, bring in young guys with high-quality draft picks, right? Then the next year, Clay messes himself up again. Now he's out for another year. So now you give these young guys and these free agents a chance to get better. You're a cusp playoff team, and now you drop Clay back in fully healthy, and you're off to the races again. Not a lot of teams get a chance to do that. Lakers did something similar to that after losing Shaq, right? Had a couple down years that allowed them to get some draft picks that were good. They didn't just ship them away for veterans. They kind of mixed the pot. They brought in some veteran talent, but then they also allowed them young guys to grow a little bit, and boom, they were back off to the races again. So, like, the Nets, they're going to need to decide, do we go the superstar route around KD, or do we look to build other ways? Do we look to try to attack this with a collective where there's one sun and then everything around the sun? The LeBron James model that by the way worked for getting them to the championship, just didn't work in them winning it all. Although I could say, for as good as Kyrie was in Cleveland, I mean, LeBron James is still the sun, right? He's still the sun. But it's an interesting question because you get what you get. It's nobody else's fault. You cannot blame the Nets. The Nets did everything they could to try to make Kyrie Irvin happy. Hey, you want to play with your homeboy who happens to be one of the best players in the league? Cool, we got you. You wanna sit back and play with a coach who's not going to really push you and tax you? Cool. Here comes Steve Nash. Now you've got to perform. Now we need you to do your job. Oh, no, you don't feel good? Oh, you don't want to? Oh, you're not going to? Oh, you could. Then you want us to pay you $250 million? Come on. Freedom, true freedom, is the ability to be okay with the outcome of your actions. And by the way, I'm not even saying that Kyrie is not okay with the outcome of his actions. I think Kyrie is 100% okay if they tell him, yo, we're not going to sign you to a max extension. We only want 2 years. I think Kyrie is comfortable enough to go, okay, well, then I'll just go somewhere else. I think he is. Because I think that Kyrie might be one of those guys that say, okay, I'm done playing basketball, just on a whim. So with him being one of those types of people, the opportunity for him to land and to live in this space is there. I think he's okay with it. He has to be. And the Nets also have to be okay because this pendulum swings the other way, right? The pendulum swings the other way. If they say, hey, we're only going to give you this much, Kyrie, they have to be ready for Kyrie to go somewhere else and then come back and torch them, right? Every time Kyrie comes to Boston, he has to deal with Boston in the fact that he chose to go another way, that he didn't really want to be involved in that Boston stuff. He has to deal with that. And if the Nets decide they don't want to sign him to a long-term extension, they have to be ready for him to come back with a chip on his shoulder. They have to be ready. The same way that James Harden, when he plays the Nets, has to be ready for the Nets to torch him because of how he did them when he was there. Everybody gets what they get. That's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of how sports mimic life. That's why so many athletes do so much better in life, like with dealing with life. Now, are there people who have adversity and they're not able to overcome it? Obviously. But per capita, athletes do it right because they've been forged in fires. They've been forged in fires. So when hard time, when oppression comes, their answer to getting through it is to work. That's something that I hope is never lost in athletics. That's one of the things that I think is beautiful about the game is when things look bleak, when things get hard, when it's not going your way, when people feel like quitting, the answer is found in working harder. The answer is found in working harder. Failure is the beginning in sports. Failure is the beginning. When you first shoot a basketball, it's not going to look good. You failed. That's the beginning. There's only up to go from there. First time you try to catch a ball, it's probably going to go through your hands. Might hit you in the face. You might cry. That's failure. There's only up from there. And those lessons just continue to follow us as we go along about our business. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of what we do in athletics. That's how we go about this thing. That's how we make life better. So I always say, look, call Kyrie whatever you want, but he's willing to live with the consequences. Say what you want about Kyrie. He's willing to live with the consequences. And I think that he's ready to live with the consequences of this situation if the Nets decide we're not going to give you the max. That's just my opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. You do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. Till next time. Peace.